I've been sitting on this video for quite some time now, knowing the kind of response I would receive. Originally, I simply wanted to highlight the countless fantastic examples of Black characters in games until I realized that I wouldn't be able to do that without simultaneously calling out the gaming industry for how underrepresented we are. I feared turning myself into the object of spectacle when all I wanted to do was talk about Black characters that I love, but I saw this as an opportunity to have a genuine conversation with gaming studios. I want to walk you through some of the most iconic and profitable Black video game characters, so I can pose the question, why aren't there more of us?
Turn my pain into motion. Got a pocket of devotion. Got no leash, I'm all the chain. I'm that potion in the ocean. No team, no crowd, no fake round here. Just me and the beat and the cash near. Manifested everything they said I never owned. Now they watching from the bleachers.
Today, I'm going to be talking about a lot of hard-hitting topics like racial stereotypes and biases, both in the media and in real life. However, I am humble enough to be proven wrong and disagreed with. I can only view the world through the lens of femininity, and while I do have the hindsight of being a Black woman, I do not know and cannot imagine what it is like to be a Black man. So I encourage open dialogue from Black men to let me know if there's something that they feel that I might have missed or painted incorrectly. I hope I do you justice with this video. I would also like to say that I have received some pushback from other Black people on my platform about the way that I conduct and carry myself. They say that I minimize myself or use soft language when I shouldn't have to. I need you guys to understand that while I am my own person with my own thoughts, feelings, and emotions, I have to conduct myself as the voice for the Black community. Because when other people look at me, they do not see me as an individual, but us as a collective. And even though there are going to be many Black people who disagree with my points here, because once again, we are all our own individual people, I may be the first or only Black opinion that someone listens to. While this burden isn't something that I signed up for, it is placed upon me because of the color of my skin. If I don't want to be written off as another angry Black woman, then I have to conduct myself as concise and balanced as possible. And speaking of burdens placed upon someone that they didn't ask for, we're going to be talking about our first character, which is Luther from Detroit Become Human.
I know you have no reason to trust me after what I did.
Luther is a relatively small stitch in the large tapestry of Detroit Become Human, a choose-your-own-adventure game about a dystopian world where society has created highly intelligent androids, to the point of them being far superior to humans in terms of intelligence and physical strength. They are trained and used for various jobs, such as police work, construction, security, etc. And as a result, it leaves humans, especially in the lower and middle class, obsolete and therefore desolate. And rather than the citizens turning their aim at the government that orchestrated this new system, they resented and hated the androids instead. Luther is introduced as we follow the story of Kara and Alice, both on the run from their oppressive home and in search of freedom. Kara is what's called a deviant android. You see, androids are hard-coded to be subservient to their owners. Over time, a few of the androids broke out of this mold. While Kara is an active deviant, Luther has not yet become one. He is the assistant of Zlatko, a human that claims he can help Kara by removing the geolocation tracker inside of her. Only Zlatko was tricking Kara, planning to reset her so he can sell her off for profit. Luther helps Zlatko at first, but seeing a child love an android, something that is not common, awoke something within him. He turns on Zlatko and joins Kara and Alice in crossing the border to Canada for refuge. In the beginning, Zlatko presents himself as someone safe and welcoming, which means by extension that anybody that's working alongside of Zlatko should be deemed safe as well. However, when Kara first sees Luther, she flinches and tenses up. When someone enters a situation where someone is deemed to be trustworthy, it makes other people in association to them trustworthy as well. This psychology is labeled as the halo effect. Take the Apple iPhone, for example. Once it gained popularity, consumers believed that other products made by Apple, such as the iPad and Apple Watch, were also well made, that the companies and teams behind these products were by definition capable of making more good products. The halo effect is the tendency for positive impressions of a person, company, or product in one area to positively influence one's opinions or feelings of a person, company, or product in another area. Only biases can and do skew off this halo effect. Black men have been found to be perceived as more dangerous than that of white men of the same size. This article by John Wilson of the American Psychological Association states, quote, "Participants in this study judged the black men to be larger, stronger, and more muscular than the white men, even though they were actually the same size," said Wilson. Participants also believed that the black men were more capable of causing physical harm in a hypothetical altercation. In other words, it's his skin color that adds to this fear. While there is an argument to be had that a white android of Luther's size would also be intimidating, there is the added layer in the fact that he is black. As Kara tenses up and reaches out for Alice, bracing to protect her, it is only when Zlatko reassures her that he is not a threat that he stops being treated as one. I can leave room for the fact that I could be reading too deeply into this, but it's not lost on me that Zlatko himself is white. A black man enters a space, and it is a white man who has to provide reassurance. It makes me wonder if the developers did this intentionally. I do not find coincidence in the fact that Luther as a character has more racial nuances than that of other black characters, especially given his facial archetype and his skin color. When we compare him, a dark-skinned man with a more wide-set nose and mouth, to Marcus, someone with lighter skin, light eyes, and more Eurocentric facial features, Marcus is judged in the way that he acts first, and not his physical appearance the way Luther is. This small interaction of mere seconds echoes the tone of what we see in real cases of black men. It is only when we spend more time getting to know Luther that we come to trust and like him. When you look beyond his appearance, you see the loyal and caring nature of his character. But because of the way he looks, he is given an unfair disadvantage that he then has to overcome. Luther goes on to be the aid of Kara and Alice. He does the heavy lifting, acts as the front line of defense, and shows grace and compassion for his new friends. It's easy to see that as the story goes on, Luther doesn't like to be violent, but he'll do it when it's necessary for protection. There are around 8 different ways for Luther to die in the story, and most if not all of them is him nobly sacrificing himself for Kara and Alice. Not only is he fiercely loyal, he's selfless. And could this be because of his masculine instinct and urge to protect, or is it the only way he feels like he can prove his worth? The negative first impression of Luther is isolating, but also one of his strongest weapons. When he is met with a compromising situation, he leans into his masculinity as a form of intimidation. We can read Luther's towering frame not just as a threat, but as a shield. This double-edged sword can greatly skew one's own opinion of themselves. Imagine knowing that you are a good person, and consistently having to prove that as fact, but at the same time having to lean into the same thing that makes you feared in order to get the outcome that you need. To be taught that you're a monster first and a human second, while at the same time having to become that monster in order to protect yourself, has what I imagine the potential to be disastrous to one's mental health. No matter how gentle, academic, or charismatic a black man is, he is automatically thrown into the category of dangerous. And that is independent of his socioeconomic status, his contributions to society, and how loved he is by his family and interpersonal relationships. Black men are guilty until proven innocent, and even though he is a small supporting character in the story, Luther is the perfect example of a kind heart full of gold that gets tainted, not by his actions, but by the way that others choose to identify him. Luther's story reminds us that sometimes survival means performing the very thing you're punished for. That power, that size. It isn't freedom. It's the armor society forced him to wear. That's what makes Luther one of the best portrayals of black men in gaming. Intentionally or not, his story reflects how society both fears and needs black masculinity, and it does so without turning him into a political symbol or victimizing him. Luther embodies a truth about black men that is rarely allowed in the media. He represents the struggle, yes, but he also transcends it. His humanity speaks for itself, quietly but powerfully enough to where even if the people miss the message, they still feel it. On the off chance that there are any gaming studios watching this video, and it's not impossible since I've had 2 indie devs catch my videos before, I want this video to serve as a message. Putting black characters in your games is not only satisfying and necessary for your black player base, it's also smart business. Every game talked about in this video is wildly successful, and each one features either black leads or black Black major supporting characters. They do it so beautifully that our identities are woven into the narrative itself without victimizing us or turning us into a political statement. I may not know anything about game development, but I do know this. Avoiding diversity is the path of least resistance. Yet games like The Walking Dead, Detroit Become Human, and Grand Theft Auto prove that that risk pays off. They aren't just financial successes. They've had a lasting impact on the people who experience them. These are real-time examples that diversity in gaming doesn't just sell. It inspires, provokes thought, and connects across race, culture, and background. Franklin's story isn't just a third of GTA's main plot, it's a cultural mirror. I see the boys who wanted more but were shaped by their unfair disadvantages. The ones who dreamed about fast cars and nice houses, not because they were greedy, but because they were tired of being in survival mode. When someone looks at Franklin and his rise to success, it's easy to shoehorn his existence into the box of a criminal. But when we take a look into his world, and the skewed lens that he sees that world through, you see someone with the same ambition and drive as any law-abiding citizen. Franklin Clinton is more than just one of GTA 5's 3 protagonists. He's its moral compass. While Trevor and Michael are stuck in their ways, two silly old queens who are always bickering back and forth, Franklin represents hunger, the kind born from survival. Raised in poverty by a father who disappeared and a mother lost to addiction, Franklin's earliest lessons were about loss and instability. His grandparents gave him structure, but the damage had already been done. He found belonging on the streets with his best friend Lamar. Petty crimes and small hustles gave him a taste of control, but Franklin wanted more. More than being another name in the system, another product of circumstance. He grew tired of risking his life and his freedom only to get screwed over and not receive a payout that would get him out of the hood. When he meets Michael, it's not just a partnership, it's an opportunity. To him, Michael embodies everything he's chasing: wealth, respect, and escape from the trap he was born into. Franklin wants to be successful, and he will break the law to achieve that, but he's not a mooch, and he's not disloyal. If he's going to find the success that he seeks, he wants it to be because he earned it. Franklin does not operate within his ego. He thinks things through before doing them. But he is open to learn from Michael and even Trevor so he can improve and do his part within their heists. As you go further along in the story, you even come to realize that Franklin is the voice of reason between the three of them, despite his younger age. Almost by definition, Franklin is an example of an outlier. It's no secret that poverty leads to more crime and higher prison rates. Around 20% of Black men grow up in poverty, and they make up a staggering 35% of the entire incarcerated population. It is as if his fate was already written out for him. Hustle to survive, break the law, get caught, and spend the rest of your life behind bars. He saw the slippery slope that this path would lead him down and decided to rise above it. By committing more high-stakes crimes, yes, but in his mind he's gone from grad school to a doctorate. If you choose to save both Michael and Trevor at the end of the game, Franklin is rewarded with $40 million from that singular last heist alone. He gets to have the house of his dreams and spends his blood money pouring into legitimate businesses. Once he achieved the goal of scoring big in the criminal world, he was smart enough to ensure that he would never have to go back to it again if he chose not to. I believe that we watch Franklin go from boy to man with his story, and while he did make a lot of bold decisions, he is his own version of success. And when you see his options that were predetermined for him based on his circumstances, one road leading to continuing to struggle working legitimate jobs, and another where he would be making a little more money but always having to run from the law, you're almost proud of how he managed to find another way. Franklin is a reminder that Black men control their own destiny and narrative. Just because you watched people in your life go down a dark path, it doesn't mean that you have to. Now, I don't think we should start robbing banks by any means, but he showed in his own way that you are in control of your circumstances. That just because you have a past and even the ability to be morally gray, it doesn't mean that you're evil. And you can still have every bit of drive and ambition to create a new life for yourself, despite your upbringing. Huh? What's this? I missed another point. A title card. Okay, hand it over. Franklin has a Rottweiler named Chop. Chop is very cute and well behaved. Okay, is that it? What does this have to do with black representation? It doesn't. You just wanted to let everyone know. Okay. I don't know if I'll keep that in. Maybe I won't. That was kind of cringe. There are a few better examples of a black caricature than Lamar Davis. The best friend of Franklin, he is loud, a little obnoxious, and has some of the best one-liners in the entire game.
You better keep it right, because this man right here, he's an international businessman, a multiculturalist.
I see you at work.
Oh, don't hate me because I'm beautiful. Maybe if you got rid of that old yee-yee ass haircut you got, you get some
However, I believe that Lamar as a character serves very powerful and specific purposes. He is a symbol of what life looks like when you continue on the path of gang association and hustle culture. Still broke, still struggling, and depending on your next score just to get by. But Lamar also serves as a tool to appease other groups of people from dismissing Franklin. Since Lamar is an exaggeration of what people expect and even want to see from a black gangbanger, it allows Franklin to exist in opposition to that without being labeled as a woke or watered down character. Lamar takes the brunt of the stereotypes so Franklin can exist outside of them. And it is, just like in Detroit Become Human, done in such a way that most people will miss that it's even happening. No one looks at Franklin as an example of everything that a black man is capable of, and that's what allows him to exist freely. In other words, Lamar is the Trojan horse for Franklin's message. Franklin isn't just chasing the American dream, he is redefining what it means to deserve one. After the chaos of Los Santos, the gunfire fades. In its place, we hear cicadas and a child's voice calling for help. Enter Lee Everett, a man who's already lost everything and yet somehow finds purpose in protecting what little hope remains. He's not flashy or fearless. He's the quiet center of the storm, teaching us that sometimes the strongest thing a black man can do is choose kindness. The Walking Dead is one of the most beloved franchises in the entire gaming industry. It's a choose-your-own-adventure game where your actions and decisions have a ripple effect on how the story plays out. And even though you can greatly change the way that other characters view Lee's legacy, there are fundamental things about him that remain true no matter what. When we meet Lee, he is in the back of a police car. He is going away for unaliving his wife's secret lover in a jealous rage. Only he finds himself fighting for his life after the police car crashes, and the officer that was once dead comes back to life and attacks him. Wounded, he hobbles away into town in search of help. Lee finds his way into a random home, and that's where he meets Clementine, a young and scared little girl who is all alone. They quickly become friends after she saves his life, and it's at this point that he vows to keep her safe. The pair find themselves having to navigate their way through many dangerous situations. Farms, abandoned towns, and survivor camps that are often more dangerous than the walkers themselves. Lee becomes her mentor, her father figure, and her moral compass in a world that's rapidly losing all sense of morality. And the loving sentiment is given right back to him by Clementine. Lee becomes the first person she looks to for guidance, protection, and she trusts that he will keep her safe. When I look at Lee, I see all of the strong black mentors in the real world. The school teachers, guidance counselors, and coaches. The roles that these black men serve for children of all races is crucial in the shaping of young minds. Not only do they serve in their roles beautifully, they evolve far beyond them. These men turn into therapists, father figures, role models, and the reason why so many young children believe in themselves. This isn't to say that educators of all races cannot make a lasting impact. It is to highlight how beautiful it is to see a black man mentoring a black little girl. Something that, to my knowledge, has never been done before or after The Walking Dead. They could have picked any other race for either Lee or Clementine, but the representation that is given with it being two black characters is such a powerful message. And if you have played through the entire 4 seasons of the series, you will know that the lessons and compassion that was given to Clementine stays with her up until the very end. It shaped who she is on a fundamental level, far beyond anyone else in her life. A 2017 Johns Hopkins University study found that having just one Black teacher in elementary school significantly increased the likelihood that Black students, especially Black boys, would graduate from high school. The study revealed a 39% increase in graduation rates for low-income Black boys. Lee did not impact Clementine just because he is Black, but the fact that he was, on some level, I would argue, instilled in her that someone who shares her reflection can survive. It is the difference between teaching someone skills and changing the fundamental course of that person's life. I found a beautiful article written by teacher Darren M. Willis, and in it he states that the impact of a Black male teacher doesn't stop when the bell rings. Even after just 1 year of teaching in the US, I've had students reach out to share their writing, update me on their goals, and express how much it meant to have someone who believed in them. They remember how I made them feel safe, seen, capable. Unfortunately, Lee does not survive past the first season. He was bitten in his pursuit of trying to find Clementine after she ran away, clinged on to the last of his remaining time on Earth to reach her, and ensured that she would be safe. Even as he is dying, he doesn't let Clementine feel bad that she indirectly caused this. He lets her know that her survival is all that matters, gives her some last words of advice and encouragement, and makes her promise that she will protect herself no matter what. That amount of selflessness perfectly mirrors the very role models that shape young minds everywhere. Lee is the perfect medium to say that as a Black man, you don't have to be perfect or make the best decisions or be fearless to be a hero. He shows that even when you're scared or unsure, you can do it anyway. In a landscape where Black men in gaming are often background or stereotype, Lee steps forward and says, without words, that their stories, their kindness, and their courage is what matters. He was a convicted felon, had the potential to take his anger too far, and was quick to tell anyone that he didn't know what he was doing raising this 8-year-old kid. And still, he rose above. He gave it everything he had. And while he didn't get to live to see the ability, resilience, compassion, and mental armor he bestowed upon Clementine, I bet if we were to ask him if he would do it all over again, he would in a heartbeat. The values that he placed in her, she then passed on to a baby named AJ. Just like Lee, she saw someone more vulnerable than she was and immediately took over responsibility for him. In the end, both Clementine and AJ did not just survive, but thrived within a world where the odds were incredibly stacked up against them. And none of that would have been possible if it weren't for Lee. Lee Everett doesn't wear a cape, he doesn't wield a sword, and he certainly isn't perfect. What he does is far more rare. He chooses, in a world gone mad, to be the constant, the guide, the protector. He shapes a little girl's life with patience, wisdom, and love, leaving a legacy that outlives him. In Lee, we see the quiet power of Black men who teach, protect, and inspire, not through bravado, but through unwavering humanity. That's why Lee isn't just a character. He's a standard, a symbol, and the reminder that heroism comes in the form of heart, choices, and the courage to do right even when it costs everything. And in the world of video games, there has never been anyone like him. And maybe there never will be. I know that games like this must be tough acts to follow, and we're not even necessarily asking for another Lee Everett or Franklin Clinton. But how lovely is it to imagine a world where Black boys get to see someone that looks like them at the front line of video games? Not just as an optional skin or a background character, but a crucial element to the story. These games and their respective studios show that not only can it be done, and done with record sales margins, but can also serve as an empowering message along the way. I watched my Black brother want to be like Goku and Zabuza and Ash Ketchum. And how beautiful is it to imagine a world where Black boys can still love and admire those characters, but also have ones that share their reflection. Representation isn't just about faces on a screen. It's about the feeling that you belong in the stories that shape us. And until every Black child sees themselves as the hero, we've still got work to do. Guys, I worked so hard on this video, and for anyone curious, this visual back here is done by a creator named Visual Dawn. He is incredibly talented. I don't want to take any shortcuts when it comes to my content. If I'm going to be successful on this platform, I want it to be because I earned it. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and share your thoughts down below. And please share it with people that you think would find it interesting. Thank you so much for watching. This is SimSiga.
Would you be